Sometimes we're not sure whether it's a good idea to do something or say something, so we need some useful expressions for asking the people around us whether they think it's a good idea. So here are 3 of my top phrases for asking approval from people around you, and I'm going to focus on pronunciation, word stress, sentence stress, and intonation. So here we go. So here's phrase number 1. Do you think it's all right to do it? Do you think it's all right to do it? So let's start with the pronunciation. Do, it's made with the tip of the tongue coming up for the D. Do, then lips round. Do you, is what's called a little yod for the beginning of you. Do you, and another oo vowel. Do you think? Do you think? Now that TH can be difficult sometimes, so tip of the tongue is just between or just behind the back of the top teeth. Do you think, and then a little short vowel, I. Do you think? And then we make an NG sound, which is weird because it's not spelt that way, but we make an NG where the back of the tongue raises. Do you think? Yeah, it's almost like we're saying thing. T-H-I-N-G with a K on the end. Think, back of the tongue is up. Think, and then we release the breath. Think it's, do you think it's all right? Do you think it's, little short vowel, I, and then a T, and then an S. Tip of the tongue comes up for the T. Do you think it's, now TS can be difficult for some speakers from some languages, so the tip of the tongue comes up for the T, and then we release into a tss, into an S, and the tip of the body of the tongue stays up there for the S. Wait. If you're thinking about leaving, I just wanted to let you know that we've got some free courses that I'd love you to steal and make use of to improve your English pronunciation and intonation and word stress. So click this link here and it'll take you to our website. And if you haven't got time now, just bookmark it or even just like this video so that you can find it again when you're next on YouTube. But sorry, I just wanted to let you know. Anyway, if you have to go, I'll see you later. Think it's all, so we get that long or vowel, yeah, so not all or al, but all. Tip of the tongue comes up for the L. All right, all right. Now that L in the word all is a dark L, which I haven't got time to go into too much detail here in this video, but what you need to know is the back of the tongue is raised for a dark L. So the tip of the tongue is on the alveolar ridge, on the gum ridge, just back from the top teeth. But then the back of the tongue is also raised, so the sound is more in the back of the mouth. All. If you were to use a light L, or what some people call a clear L, where the back of the tongue is lower, that would be all. A lot of Indian speakers do that, various sort of languages. All, but it would be all right. And then we make an R with the tongue. Sorry. Do you think it's all right? Sorry. So the R is made with the tip of the tongue curling up. All right. Tip of the tongue's up for the R. Right. But it's not touching anything. So it's not right or right, but right. And we get that long I vowel, I, and then a T on the end. T, yeah? All right to do it. Now, we don't have to say that T there in that word. We don't have to say all right to, because, well, there's just 2 T's together. It's called assimilation. We don't need to make both T's. So we make the first T, all right, and we hold it, all right to. And that little hesitation marks the fact that there were 2 T's there, yeah? So we don't need to make both. All right to, another schwa, to, do it. And then we get this wonderful thing called an intrusive W, where the lips round for to do, and then because the next word begins with a vowel, to do it, we release the lips, to do it. Yeah, so there's a little kind of weird W in the middle. I know English is weird, but that's what we do. To do to do it? Yeah, and then our lips spread for the I vowel and a final T comes up. Do you think it's all right to do it? Do you think it's all right to do it? Yeah, do you think it's all right to do it? Now, in terms of stress, do you think it's all right to do it? Yes, we're questioning the action. Yeah, whether we should do this thing. Do you think it's all right to do it? Yeah, you could say, do you think it's all right to do it? Do you think it's all right to do it? Yeah, that's fine as well. That's perfectly fine. So the pitch of the voice would be high on right as opposed to do. So they're the two options. And then at the end, because it's a question, we would use an upward inflection. Do you think it's all right to do it? Do you think it's all right to do it? So number 2 is, what do you think about, which I guess you could follow with me doing it. What do you think about me doing it? Yeah, or what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? So if we just focus on what do you think about, yeah, and then dot, dot, dot. We start with a W, so what. Now that A is a confusing one, so we wouldn't say wat, you know, or wart, but what. It's a little O vowel. What? What do you think? What do you think about? What do you... Now notice again, just as in the previous phrase, we don't have to say that T at the end of what. We don't say what do, but because they're made in the same place, with the tip of the tongue coming up to the alveolar ridge, the T and D are made in the same place, we go to make that first sound, the T, but we don't release it. Instead, we release into the D. We do hold the tongue there. We hesitate briefly. What do you think about? What do you think about? What do you... Can you hear that little hesitation? What do you... Now, do is often pronounced as oo, but here it can be pronounced as a schwa, as an d, d, d. What do you think? What do you... And in fact, you can be pronounced as a schwa as well, with a schwa. What do you think? But it's okay to do that, as is it to say, what do you think? What do you yeah, think? So we can either use two schwas, or we can use a schwa and an oo vowel for do you, or we can even say what do you, and we can use two oo vowels. So what do you, what do you, what do you, and what do you. There's three versions. Think, so we've got a TH sound. We've already covered this word, so TH is tongue just between the teeth or just behind the top teeth. I, and then an NG and then a K. Think about, think about. Now release that K into the vowel at the beginning of about. Thinker, because that's how you're going to get this fluency, where these words connect together, because it's called connected speech. So these words in English, they connect with one another. Thinker, it's a schwa. Think about. So we don't say thinkab, not for that A at the beginning of about, but thinker, think about. And then we get this diphthong, where the lips start spread. About, and then the lips round. Not about, where the jaw drops and we get this at the beginning, but spread lips, about, and then a T on the end. Yeah. What do you think about? What do you think about? Now, because we haven't named the thing that we're about to ask the question about, you know, do you think about me, you know, going rock climbing, or what do you think about me handing in my notice at work, or what do you think about me going for this promotion? You know, we would stress the noun, or probably the verb, or the noun or the verb of whatever it is that we're about to talk about. But we do stress the word what, right? Because that's what indicates this being a question. What do you think about? What do you think about? What do you think about? So the pitch of the voice is high on what do you think about X, Y, and Z. So the last one is, what would you say if I, So we've got the word what, which we've already covered, begins with a W, and then an O, and then a T. But in this context, there's a bit of variation. So you'll find a lot of people glottalizing the T. What would you say if I? What would you say if I? And a glottal is made with the vocal folds coming together and stopping the sound in your throat. What would you say? You're going to hear that quite a lot with native speakers. If you wanted to be, just a bit clearer with that word, you could add the T on and say, what? What would you say if I? What would you say if I? But that'll just make you sound, just a little bit more speech conscious. It's not necessarily wrong, but a lot of people do glottalize that T. What would you say? What? I'm stopping it in my throat. My tongue is low, mouth is open. What would you, or what would you? Either way, the next word begins with another W. W. Make sure the two lips are rounding. W. Some people struggle with that. Some speakers replace that with a V. So not vot, would, vot, v. It's an exaggeration, but vot, would, or what would, what would, but what would, or what would, yeah. And then we get the vowel in would is a short little vowel with rounded lips, w. Now that L is not spoken, so it's not wold, but it's just would with a D on the end, yeah. What would you do? What would you? So we get the vowel, we get the little thing called a yod, y, and then you. What would you? Now, a little bit of variation here as well. You'll hear some people, instead of saying what would with a D, they'll actually change it into a j. And that's because when you get a D followed by a yod, in standard Southern British English, some speakers use something called yod coalescence, which is a scary word. Forget about it. It's essentially when a du sound changes to a j, Jew, yeah, like, yeah, the Jewish, yeah, faith, religion, Jew, yeah. So instead of saying what would you with a D, you'll hear a lot of people saying what would you, can you hear that? What would you say if I? So then we move on to the S, and then we get the spread vowel say, diphthong, say, a, say, not say with an a, but say, if. And then we get a little intrusive yod. And we talked about an intrusive W earlier on, where the W linked the two words together here. What would you say if? Can you hear that little if? And again, that's for fluency. It links the words together. What would you say if I? What would you say if I? Let me open up to a nice I vowel, diphthong, lots of space, I. What would you say if I? X, Y, and Z, whatever it is, yeah, whatever it is you think you might say, yeah. What would you say if I? What would you say if I? What would you say if I? Now the what is stressed in that little part of the question because we've yet to name what it is that we're asking the question about, what comment, what language, what word it is that we might use, yeah? And we're asking the question regarding. So what would you say if I? What would you say if I? So I hope you found that useful. Why don't you like this video, or leave a comment, or subscribe to this channel, because I would love to see you here next week.